6 months ago, my girlfriend Everly looked me dead in the eye and said I'd never amount to anything. She called me a dead-end loser and left me for her supervisor at the marketing firm where she worked. She thought he could give her the successful life I never could. What Everly didn't know was that I'm the secret heir to a billion-dollar tech empire. While she was climbing the corporate ladder through her new relationship, I was preparing to take my rightful place as CEO of the very company she worked for. Last week I walked into that boardroom as her new boss. The look on her face when she realized the failure she dumped was now the man who controlled her career. Priceless. Here's exactly how I got my revenge on the woman who thought she was too good for me. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Jayce Vance, and if you looked at my life 6 months ago, you'd probably think I was just another struggling freelancer trying to make it in Millbrook Heights. I lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the Oakwood District, drove a 5-year-old Honda Civic, and spent my days working on small tech consulting projects for local businesses. Nothing glamorous, nothing that screamed success to most people. But I was happy, or at least I thought I was. The reason for my contentment had a name: Everly Hayes. We'd been together for 3 years, ever since we met at a coffee shop near the university where I was finishing my computer science degree. She was beautiful, ambitious, and had just landed her first job at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, one of the most prestigious advertising firms in the city. Everly was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. She was driven, intelligent, and had this infectious energy that made every day feel like an adventure. When she talked about her dreams of climbing the corporate ladder and building a successful career, her eyes would light up in a way that made my heart skip beats. I loved listening to her ambitious plans, her strategies for getting promoted, her visions of the life she wanted to build. What I loved most about our relationship was how we balanced each other. While she was focused on the corporate world, I was content working on my own projects, building apps and websites for small businesses around Millbrook Heights. I made decent money, enough to split the rent on our apartment and take her out to nice dinners on weekends. Sure, I wasn't pulling in 6 figures like some of her colleagues at Pinnacle Marketing, but we were comfortable. Our apartment in the Oakwood District was cozy and reflected both our personalities. Everly had decorated the living room with sleek modern furniture that screamed professional success, while my corner was set up with multiple monitors, tech equipment, and the organized chaos of a programmer's workspace. It was our little sanctuary, where she could unwind after long days dealing with demanding clients, and I could work on my coding projects late into the night. Everly worked as a junior account coordinator at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, a role she'd secured right after graduating with her marketing degree. The company was housed in a gleaming 40-story tower in the heart of Millbrook Heights business district, and from day one, Everly was determined to make her mark there. She'd come home every evening with stories about office politics, client presentations, and her ambitious plans to get promoted to account manager within 2 years. "Jayce, you should see the executive floor," she'd tell me, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "The senior partners have these corner offices with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. One day, I'm going to have an office like that. I'm going to be somebody important." I always encouraged her dreams. "You will, Everly. You're the smartest, most driven person I know. They'd be crazy not to promote you." She'd smile and kiss me, then settle into my arms on our second-hand couch. "What about you? Don't you want more than just freelance work? Don't you want to build something bigger?" Honestly, I did have bigger dreams, but they were complicated. You see, there was something about my background that I'd never told Everly, or anyone else in Millbrook Heights, for that matter. My real last name wasn't just Vance. It was Vance Sterling, as in Sterling Technologies, one of the largest tech conglomerates in the country. My father, Harrison Sterling, was the founder and CEO of a company worth over $12 billion. But when I was 18, after a massive fight with my father about my future and the pressure of living up to the Sterling name, I'd made a decision that changed everything. I legally changed my name to just Jayce Vance, moved across the country to Millbrook Heights, and decided I wanted to make it on my own merit. I wanted to prove that I could be successful without riding on my family's coattails. My father thought I was being foolish and idealistic, but he respected my decision. We maintained contact, and he'd been patiently waiting for me to realize that I could honor both my independence and my heritage. Meanwhile, I lived modestly, building my skills and reputation one small project at a time. Everly knew I came from a comfortable background. I'd mentioned that my family had done well in business, but she assumed that meant middle-class comfortable, not billionaire comfortable. I planned to tell her eventually, once I'd proven myself professionally, and was ready to take my place in the family business. I wanted her to love me for who I was, not for my bank account. Our relationship had a comfortable rhythm. Everly would leave for Pinnacle Marketing every morning at 7:30, looking absolutely stunning in her professional attire. She took pride in her appearance, investing in quality suits and accessories that projected success and ambition. I'd usually still be in my pajamas, nursing my first cup of coffee and preparing for my own day of client calls and coding sessions. We'd meet for lunch a couple times a week at small cafes around the city, where she'd update me on office drama and her latest projects. Everly was working with increasingly important clients, and her supervisor, Landon Thorne, had been giving her more responsibilities. She spoke about Landon with a mixture of professional respect and something that, looking back, I should have recognized as admiration. Landon is incredible at what he does, she'd tell me over salads at our favorite bistro. He just closed this massive deal with a Fortune 500 company. The commission alone is probably more than what most people make in a year. He drives this gorgeous BMW and lives in one of those luxury penthouses in the Harbor District. I'd nod and smile, genuinely happy that she had good mentorship at work. Sounds like you're learning from the best. I am. He's been teaching me about high-level client relations and strategic campaign development. Jayce, working with clients like that, it's a completely different world. The budgets, the expectations, the lifestyle, it's everything I've dreamed of. In the evenings we'd curl up together and watch Netflix, or she'd work on presentations while I coded. Weekends were our time. We'd explore different neighborhoods in Millbrook Heights, try new restaurants, or just enjoy lazy mornings in bed. I thought we were building something real and lasting. The thing is, I was completely in love with Everly, not just attracted to her, but deeply, genuinely in love with her mind, her ambition, her laugh, the way she wrinkled her nose when she was concentrating on something difficult. I'd been planning to propose to her within the next year. I'd even started looking at rings, thinking about how I'd eventually introduce her to my family and the sterling legacy. I thought she loved me the same way. When she looked at me, when she talked about our future together, when she introduced me to her friends as her boyfriend, everything seemed genuine and committed. She'd talk about wanting to travel together, maybe getting a bigger apartment, planning for a future that included both of us. But there were small signs that I ignored, things that should have made me more cautious. Everly had always been focused on success and status, but lately, those conversations were becoming more frequent and more pointed. She'd make comments about her friends who were dating lawyers or investment bankers, or she'd point out expensive cars and beautiful houses, wondering aloud what it would be like to afford such luxuries. "Don't you ever want more, Jayce?" she'd ask sometimes. "Don't you want to be able to buy whatever you want, live wherever you want, not have to worry about money?" "I'm happy with what we have," I'd reply honestly. "As long as we're together, the rest is just details." She'd smile, but I started noticing that the smiles didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. Still, I had no idea what was coming. In my mind we were solid, we were building something together, we were in love. I was completely unprepared for how quickly everything was about to change. The beginning of the end started on a Thursday evening in early October. Everly came home from work later than usual, and something was different about her energy. Instead of her usual tired but satisfied demeanor after a long day, she seemed almost electric, excited in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Guess what happened today?" she said, dropping her designer handbag on the kitchen counter and practically bouncing on her toes. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been working on a website redesign for a local restaurant. "Good news at work, Jayce. This is huge. Landon just landed the biggest client in Pinnacle Marketing's history. Nexus Corporation, they're this massive tech company, based on the West Coast. They're looking for a complete brand overhaul, and the contract is worth over $50 million. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us." Now back to the story. I felt a chill run down my spine at the mention of Nexus Corporation. They were one of Sterling Technology's biggest competitors, and I knew from family conversations that they'd been aggressively expanding their market share. but I kept my expression neutral and supportive. "That's incredible, Everly. Congratulations to your team." "That's not even the best part," she continued, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Landon specifically requested me to be the lead coordinator on the account. Me, Jayce. I'll be working directly with their executive team, managing a budget bigger than anything I've ever touched. This could fast-track my career by years." I stood up and hugged her, genuinely happy for her success. "You deserve this. You've worked so hard." But as I held her, I noticed she felt tense, almost like she was holding something back. When she pulled away, there was something in her eyes that I couldn't quite read. "There's one thing though," she said, suddenly looking serious. "The project is going to require a lot of travel. Nexus wants face-to-face meetings at their headquarters in Phoenix, plus client dinners, strategy sessions. Landon says I might be on the road 2 or 3 days a week for the next several months." "Okay," I said slowly. "That sounds intense, but if it's good for your career, it is good for my career. It's everything I've been working toward." She paused, studying my face. "You're okay with that? With me being away so much?" Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling down. "Of course, I'll miss you, but I support your dreams. You know that." She smiled, but again, it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I knew you'd understand." Landon said, "Most partners wouldn't be so supportive of this kind of commitment." Partners, you know, significant others, spouses, people in serious relationships. She said it casually, but something about the phrasing felt off. That weekend, Everly started preparing for her new responsibilities with an intensity I'd never seen before. She went shopping for new business attire, investing in clothes that cost more than her monthly salary. When I gently asked about the expense, she waved off my concerns. "This is an investment in my future, Jayce. I need to look the part if I'm going to play at this level." She also started working longer hours, staying late at the office for strategy meetings, and coming home with stories about client dinners and networking events. The energy she'd always brought to our relationship seemed to be channeling entirely into work. 3 weeks into the Nexus project, I started noticing changes that were harder to ignore. Everly would get phone calls at odd hours, sometimes as late as 10 or 11 p.m., and she'd step onto the balcony to take them, claiming they were confidential client matters. Her phone was suddenly password protected, something that had never been the case before. When I mentioned it casually, she said Pinnacle Marketing had implemented new security protocols for high-value accounts. She also started making comments about our lifestyle that stung more than I wanted to admit. "Landon's taking the team to that new steakhouse in the Harbor District tomorrow night," she mentioned one evening while getting ready for another late meeting. "The one where dinner for 2 costs more than our monthly grocery budget." "Sounds fancy," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "It is. That's where successful people network, Jayce. That's the world I'm trying to break into." She paused while applying lipstick, studying my reflection in the bathroom mirror. "I just wish." "Wish what?" "Nothing. Never mind." But I pressed her. "What were you going to say?" She sighed and turned to face me. "I wish I didn't have to pretend that my boyfriend fixes computers for a living when people ask what you do." The words hit me like a physical blow. "I don't fix computers, Everly. I'm a software developer and consultant. I build applications that help businesses." "I know what you do, Jayce. But when I'm sitting at a table with executives who run multi-million-dollar companies, and they ask about my personal life, how do I explain that my boyfriend works from home on websites for mom-and-pop shops?" I stared at her, feeling something shift inside our relationship. "You explain that your boyfriend is building his own business, and that you're proud of him." She looked away. "You're right. I'm sorry. This new project has me stressed, and I'm not thinking clearly." But the damage was done. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like Everly was ashamed of me. The next month brought more of the same. Everly's schedule became increasingly erratic, filled with client obligations that seemed to revolve around expensive restaurants, exclusive events, and late-night strategy sessions. She started talking about Landon more frequently, praising his business acumen, his lifestyle, his success. "Landon closed another major deal today," she'd say over dinner at our kitchen table. "The client flew him to Miami for the weekend, just to celebrate." Can you imagine having that kind of influence? I started feeling like a spectator in my own relationship. Everly was physically present but mentally somewhere else entirely. Somewhere I apparently couldn't follow. The breaking point came on a Friday night, in late November. I'd planned a romantic evening for us, complete with her favorite takeout from the Italian place we'd gone to on our first date, candles, and a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. I wanted to reconnect with her, to remind us both of what we'd built together. But at 6 p.m., just as I was setting the table, Everly called. "Jayce, I'm so sorry, but I can't make it home tonight. Landon scheduled an emergency strategy session with the Nexus team, and we're going to be working through the weekend." I felt my heart sink. "It's Friday night, Everly. Can't it wait until Monday? This is a $50 million account, Jayce. When the client needs something, we make it happen. That's how business works at this level. I understand that, but we haven't spent a real evening together in weeks. I miss you." There was a pause. "I miss you too, but this is important for my career. You know how much this means to me. More than we mean to you." "That's not fair, Jayce. You're being selfish." Selfish. The word hung in the air between us like poison. "I'm being selfish because I want to spend time with my girlfriend. You're being selfish because you don't understand the pressure I'm under. Landon is counting on me. The entire team is counting on me. This project could change my entire life." "What about our life, Everly?" Another pause, longer this time. "I have to go. We'll talk this weekend." But we didn't talk that weekend. Or the next one. Everly became a ghost in our apartment, present only to sleep and change clothes. When she was there, she was distracted, constantly checking her phone, taking calls, working on presentations for the team. It was during this time that I started noticing other changes. Everly had new jewelry, expensive pieces that definitely weren't in her budget. When I asked about a particularly stunning necklace, she said it was a performance bonus from the Nexus account. She also started talking differently, using business jargon and corporate speak that felt foreign coming from her. But the most painful change was how she looked at me. The warmth, the affection, the love I'd grown accustomed to seeing in her eyes. It was fading, replaced by something that looked uncomfortably like disappointment. 3 weeks before Christmas, everything came crashing down in a way I never could have predicted. The truth began to unravel on a Tuesday evening, when I made a decision that would change everything. Everly had been at another late meeting, the fourth one that week, and I found myself alone in our apartment, staring at the carefully wrapped Christmas presents I'd hidden in our bedroom closet. I'd spent weeks planning the perfect gift for her, a weekend getaway to Ashbrook Springs, a romantic mountain resort, where we'd talked about going for our anniversary. But as I sat there in the silence of our increasingly hollow home, I realized I hadn't heard her laugh in weeks. We hadn't made love in over a month. We barely had conversations anymore that didn't revolve around her work or my apparent shortcomings. I was losing the woman I'd planned to marry, and I had no idea how to fight for her. That's when I made the impulsive decision to surprise her at the office. I knew Pinnacle Marketing's office layout well enough from Everly's descriptions, and the few times I'd picked her up after work. The building had a coffee shop on the ground floor that stayed open until midnight, catering to the workaholic culture of the business district. I figured I could grab her favorite latte and some pastries, then surprise her with a sweet gesture that might remind her of what we used to have. The night security guard in the Pinnacle Marketing lobby recognized me from previous visits and waved me through to the elevators. Everly worked on the 32nd floor, and as I rode up with the coffee getting cold in my hands, I rehearsed what I'd say. Something casual and supportive, something that wouldn't make her feel guilty about working so hard. The elevator doors opened to reveal the familiar sleek interior of Pinnacle Marketing's office space. Most of the floor was dark, with only a few scattered offices still lit up with the glow of late-night work sessions. I could see light coming from the conference room at the end of the hall, where Everly had mentioned they held their Nexus strategy meetings. As I walked toward the conference room, I could hear voices and laughter coming from inside. Good, I thought. If the whole team was there, I could just drop off the coffee, say hello, and let them get back to work. Maybe Everly would appreciate the gesture. But as I got closer, I realized there were only 2 voices coming from the room. and one of them wasn't discussing business strategies. Never expected this project to bring us together like this. I heard a man's voice saying, Landon Thorne. I realized, Everly's supervisor. Neither did I, came Everly's reply, but her tone was soft, intimate, nothing like the professional voice she used when talking about work at home. I froze in the hallway, coffee cups trembling in my hands. When this project started, I thought you were just another ambitious junior coordinator. Landon continued, but you're so much more than that, Everly. You're brilliant, you're beautiful, and you understand what it takes to succeed at this level. Landon, Everly's voice carried a warning, but also something else, something that made my stomach drop. I know this is complicated. I know you're with someone, but I can't pretend I don't feel this connection between us. These past few months, working together, seeing your potential. Everly, you're meant for so much more than what you have. What I have, she repeated quietly. You know what I mean. You're extraordinary, but you're held back by circumstances, by people who don't understand your ambitions. I should have left. I should have turned around, walked back to the elevator, and pretended I never heard any of this. But I was frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Jayce is a good person, Everly said, and for a moment, hope fluttered in my chest. I'm sure he is, but is good enough for you? You light up when you talk about business strategy, about client relations, about building something significant. When was the last time he made you feel that alive? There was a long pause. Too long. He doesn't understand this world, Everly finally said, and her words felt like ice in my veins. He thinks success means being comfortable. He thinks ambition is optional. When I try to talk to him about my goals, about the life I want to build, he doesn't get it. Because he's not operating at your level. Everly, look around you. Look at what you've accomplished in just a few months working with me. You've helped close deals worth tens of millions of dollars. You've earned the respect of executives at Fortune 500 companies. You're making six figures for the first time in your life. That's not luck. That's talent meeting opportunity. I know, she whispered. You deserve someone who matches your ambition. Someone who can offer you the lifestyle your talent has earned. Someone who understands that success isn't just about money. It's about influence, respect, making an impact. Landon, I've been offered the position of regional director for the West Coast operations. It comes with a substantial salary increase, a relocation package, and the opportunity to build something from the ground up. I want you to come with me as my account director. I heard Everly gasp. Account director. Landon, that's a promotion that would normally take you 5 years to earn. But you've proven yourself. More than that, I want to build this new division with someone I trust completely. Someone I care about. Everly, I think you know how I feel about you. These haven't just been business dinners and strategy sessions. At least not for me. The silence that followed felt eternal. I stood in that hallway, holding cold coffee, feeling my entire world crack apart. I care about you too, Everly finally said, her voice barely audible. More than I should, more than I expected. That's when I heard movement in the room. Shuffling, the sound of chairs scraping against the floor. We shouldn't, Everly said, but her voice lacked conviction. Why not? What's stopping us from being honest about this? Jayce, he loves me. And what about what you want? What about what you deserve? Another pause. Then he'll never be able to give me the life I want. He's content with mediocrity. He thinks love is enough. Love without ambition is just settling. Everly, you're meant for so much more. I finally found the strength to move, but not toward the conference room. I turned and walked back to the elevator, moving like a robot. My mind completely numb. The coffee cups dropped from my hand somewhere in the hallway, but I didn't hear them hit the floor. The ride down 32 floors felt like falling through space. I sat in my car in the parking garage for an hour, trying to process what I'd heard. The woman I'd planned to marry was having an emotional affair, maybe more than emotional, with her boss. She was ashamed of me, saw me as an obstacle to her success, and was apparently considering leaving the city with another man. But what hurt the most were her words about ambition and mediocrity. She thought I lacked drive. She thought I was content with small dreams,
and small achievements. She had no idea that I'd been building towards something much larger, planning to eventually take my place in a business empire that dwarfed anything Landon Thorne could offer her. The irony was devastating. While she was falling for a man she thought could give her success and status, she was unknowingly sabotaging a relationship with someone who could have given her wealth and influence beyond her wildest dreams. But more than that, she was choosing to see me as less than I was. Not because of my bank account, but because of who she decided I was based on surface appearances. That night, I didn't go home. I drove around Millbrook Heights for hours, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. By the time I finally returned to our apartment, it was nearly 3 a.m., and Everly was asleep. She didn't wake up when I came in. The next morning, she acted completely normal. She made coffee, kissed me goodbye, and told me she'd be working late again. As I watched her leave for what I now knew was more than just work, I realized that she'd become a complete stranger to me. But I also realized something else. I was done being the man she thought I was. I was done hiding who I really was, to prove a point about independence and merit. She wanted ambition. She wanted success. She wanted to see what real power looked like. I was about to show her exactly what she'd thrown away. That afternoon, I made 2 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to my father's private line. Jayce, Harrison Sterling's voice was surprised but pleased. It's been months since we talked. How are things in Millbrook Heights? Dad, I said, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. I think it's time to come home. The conversation with my father lasted 2 hours, and changed the trajectory of my entire life. Harrison Sterling had been waiting for this call for 5 years, ever since I'd stubbornly marched out of the family estate, determined to prove myself without the Sterling name. His voice carried a mixture of relief and concern, as I explained the situation with Everly, and my decision to finally step into my role at Sterling Technologies. Son, I'm sorry you're going through this, he said after I'd given him the full story. But I'm also proud of you for maintaining your integrity and independence all these years. You've proven everything you set out to prove. I'm not sure about that, Dad. I feel like I've proven I'm good at hiding who I am. No, Jayce, you've proven that your character isn't dependent on your bank account. That's a rare quality in our world. When you take your place at Sterling Technologies, you'll bring both the skills you've earned and the perspective you've gained. That combination will make you formidable. We spent the rest of the call discussing logistics. Sterling Technologies had recently acquired several smaller tech companies, including one with significant operations in the Southwest. It would be natural for them to establish a regional headquarters in a city like Millbrook Heights, especially given the area's growing tech sector and business-friendly environment. We'll need someone to oversee the integration and expansion, my father said thoughtfully. Someone with both technical expertise and business acumen. Someone who understands the local market. Someone like the heir to Sterling Technologies, who's been living in Millbrook Heights for 5 years. I replied, exactly, Jayce. Within 2 weeks, you'll be announced as the regional director for Sterling Technologies Southwest Division. The board has already approved the position. They've been waiting for you to be ready to take it. After the call, I sat in my apartment, looking around at the life I'd built with Everly. Everything felt different now, tainted by the knowledge of her betrayal. But I also felt something I hadn't experienced in months: purpose. For the first time since college, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next few days were surreal. I continued my regular routine, working on my freelance projects while secretly coordinating with Sterling Technologies' legal and communications teams. Everly maintained her pattern of late nights and weekend work sessions, apparently oblivious to the fact that I knew the truth about her relationship with Lyndon. But the charade couldn't last forever.
On Friday evening, exactly 1 week after my conversation with my father, Everly came home looking different. She was glowing with an energy I hadn't seen since the early days of our relationship, but it wasn't directed at me. She was practically vibrating with excitement as she set her purse down and turned to face me. Jayce, we need to talk. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing contracts for my new position. Sure, what's on your mind? She sat down across from me at our small dining table, her hands folded in front of her. For a moment she looked almost nervous, but then her expression shifted to something that looked like determination. "I've been offered an incredible opportunity. Landon has been promoted to Regional Director for Pinnacle Marketing's West Coast operations, and he's asked me to come with him as his account director." I kept my expression neutral. "That sounds like a big promotion." "It is, Jayce. This is everything I've been working toward. The salary alone is more than triple what I'm making now, plus equity, plus a relocation package. I'd be managing accounts worth hundreds of millions of dollars." "Congratulations," I said quietly. "That's quite an achievement." She looked surprised by my calm reaction. "There's more though. The position is based in Phoenix, and it starts in 3 weeks. "Phoenix?" "Yes. And Jayce." She paused, seeming to gather her courage. "I've decided to take it." I nodded slowly. "I see. I know this is sudden, but this opportunity won't come again. This is my chance to build the career I've always dreamed of." "And what about us?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Everly's composure cracked slightly. "That's what we need to talk about. Jayce, I love you. I do. But we want different things. You're content with your freelance work and your simple life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I need more. I need ambition, drive, the excitement of building something significant. And you don't think I have those things. I think you have them, but not in a way that aligns with what I need. You're brilliant at what you do, but you lack vision. You lack the hunger for real success." Each word felt like a blade. She was essentially telling me that I wasn't enough for her, that my dreams were too small, that my ambitions were insufficient. If she only knew the irony of her words. "So this is about more than just the job," I said. She took a shaky breath. "Landon and I have grown close working on the Nexus project. He understands my goals, my drive. He sees potential in me that goes beyond just professional capabilities. You're having an affair." The words hung in the air between us like a confession. Everly's face went pale, then flushed red. "It's not, it wasn't planned. These feelings just developed over time. Landon appreciates my ambition, instead of just tolerating it. He wants to build something with me, both professionally and personally." "How long?" "Jayce, please don't make this harder than it has to be." "How long, Everly?" She looked down at her hands. "We kissed for the first time 3 weeks ago. But the emotional connection, it's been growing for months." 3 weeks. While I'd been planning Christmas surprises and thinking about proposing, she'd been starting a new relationship with another man. "I want you to know that this isn't about money," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "This is about finding someone who shares my vision for the future. Landon understands what it means to be successful, to make an impact. He's built a career that matters. And I haven't. You've built a comfortable life, Jayce, but comfort isn't enough for me anymore. I need someone who challenges me, who pushes me to be better, who can match my level of ambition." I stood up from the table, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "So you've made your decision." "I have. I'm moving to Phoenix, and I'm going to build something incredible with Landon. I hope someday you'll understand that this is better for both of us." "When are you leaving?" "This weekend. Landon has already found us a beautiful penthouse apartment in the Scottsdale area. The company is covering all moving expenses. Us." She was already thinking of herself as part of a couple with Landon. "I'll start packing my things tonight," she said, standing up as well. "I'll be out by Sunday." I nodded. "Okay." She looked surprised by my lack of argument, my absence of pleading or anger. "Jayce, I hope you don't hate me for this." "I don't hate you, Everly. I'm disappointed, but I don't hate you. I hope you find someone who appreciates what you have to offer. Someone who's content with the kind of life you want to build. I hope you get everything you think you want." That night, I lay in bed listening to Everly pack her belongings in the next room. The sound of her moving through our shared space, choosing what to take and what to leave behind, felt like the soundtrack to the end of my old life. But I wasn't devastated anymore. I was angry, not just at her betrayal, but at her complete inability to see who I really was. She thought she was trading up, leaving a small-time freelancer for a successful executive. She had no idea that she was about to discover just how wrong she'd been about everything. By Sunday evening, Everly was gone. Our apartment felt hollow and strange without her presence, but also somehow cleaner. The air felt lighter without the weight of her deception and judgment. I spent Sunday night making final preparations for what was coming next. Monday morning, Sterling Technologies would announce the establishment of their Southwest Division headquarters in Millbrook Heights, along with the appointment of their new regional director. And Everly Hayes was about to learn that sometimes the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating someone based on appearances. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that signals a turning point. I woke up in my empty apartment, put on my best suit, one that I'd purchased months ago, but never had occasion to wear, and prepared for the most important day of my professional life. At exactly 9 a.m., Sterling Technologies released a press statement that sent shockwaves through Millbrook Heights business community. Sterling Technologies announces the establishment of its Southwest Division headquarters in Millbrook Heights, signaling a major expansion into the region's thriving tech sector. The company has appointed Jayce Vance Sterling, son of CEO Harrison Sterling, as regional director to oversee operations and strategic partnerships across the Southwest market. The announcement included a professional headshot that I'd had taken the previous week, along with details about my educational background, my extensive experience in the regional tech sector, and my deep understanding of local market dynamics. What it didn't mention was that I'd been living under an assumed name for 5 years, building websites for local restaurants while hiding my true identity. By 10 a.m., my phone was ringing non-stop. Local business leaders, tech entrepreneurs, and media outlets all wanted to speak with the mysterious Sterling heir, who had apparently been operating in their midst undetected. I fielded the calls professionally, scheduling meetings and interviews while maintaining the composed demeanor expected of a Sterling Technologies executive. But the call I was really waiting for came at 11:47 a.m. Jayce. Everly's voice was barely a whisper, filled with shock and confusion. I just saw the news. Tell me this is some kind of mistake. Hello, Everly. No mistake. How's Phoenix treating you? You're Harrison Sterling's son. You're the heir to Sterling Technologies. I am. Always have been, actually. I just chose to use my middle name, and my mother's maiden name, while I figured some things out. There was a long pause filled with what sounded like ragged breathing. You lied to me. For 3 years you lied to me about who you are. I never lied about anything, Everly. I told you my family was in business. I told you we were comfortable. I never pretended to be poor or unsuccessful. You just assumed I was based on how I chose to live. But you let me think. You let me believe that you were just some freelance developer with no real prospects. I let you form your own opinions about my worth based on what you valued. Turns out, what you valued wasn't me. Jayce, if you had known, you would have stayed with me for my money, instead of leaving me for Landon's money. Either way, it wouldn't have been about me as a person. I could hear her crying now. Soft sobs that might have moved me a week ago. Now they just sounded like regret over a lost opportunity. Do you have any idea what Sterling Technologies is worth? She asked through her tears. About $12 billion, last time I checked. But Everly, that's not the point. Not the point. Jayce, we could have been, you could have been, what? The wife of a billionaire instead of the girlfriend of a regional marketing director. You're proving my point beautifully. That's not fair. I loved you. You loved the idea of me maybe, but you didn't love me enough to see past surface appearances. You didn't love me enough to believe I might be more than what you assumed. And you definitely didn't love me enough to stay faithful when someone shinier came along. Another long pause. Where does this leave us? Us. Everly, there is no us. You made sure of that when you moved to Phoenix with another man. I made a mistake. Jayce, I made a terrible mistake. Yes, you did, but not the one you think. What do you mean? Your mistake wasn't leaving me for someone richer. Your mistake was judging me as unambitious and unsuccessful when you had no idea what you were talking about. Your mistake was thinking that love wasn't enough when you didn't even know what love was. Jayce, please, can we talk about this? Can I come back? I can end things with Landon. And no, Everly, you can't. You made your choice based on who you thought I was and who you thought he was. Now you get to live with that choice. But I didn't know. You have to understand. I didn't know who you really were. And that's exactly the problem. You should have known me well enough to know that I was more than what appeared on the surface. Instead, you decided I was mediocre and unambitious. You decided I wasn't enough. The irony was delicious. While she thought she was upgrading from a small-time freelancer to a successful executive, she had actually downgraded from a billionaire heir to a middle manager. But even more than that,
She had revealed that her love was conditional on status and success rather than character and connection. Jayce, I'm begging you, please give me another chance. I hope you and Landon are very happy together, Everly. I hope you find everything you thought you wanted. I hung up the phone and immediately blocked her number. Within an hour, she'd tried calling from 3 different numbers, but I didn't answer any of them. The woman who had called me unambitious and lacking in vision had just discovered that she'd thrown away a relationship with one of the most powerful men in the tech industry. But more importantly, she'd revealed exactly who she was when she thought she had better options. And I was just getting started. 6 months later, my life had transformed beyond recognition. Sterling Technologies' Southwest Division was thriving under my leadership, with offices spanning across 3 states and partnerships that had revolutionized the regional tech landscape. The boy who had once hidden his identity to prove himself had become exactly what his father always knew he could be, a leader who combined inherited wisdom with hard-earned experience. But the sweetest victory wasn't professional. 3 weeks after my identity reveal, I learned through industry contacts that Nexus Corporation, the massive client that Everly and Landon had been so excited about, had abruptly terminated their contract with Pinnacle Marketing. Apparently, they'd decided to work exclusively with Sterling Technologies instead, bringing their entire $50 million account directly to my division. Landon's promotion to regional director was quietly rescinded. Without the Nexus account to justify the West Coast expansion, Pinnacle Marketing decided they couldn't afford the new division after all. Both he and Everly found themselves back in Millbrook Heights, demoted and scrambling to rebuild their reputations. I heard through mutual acquaintances that their relationship crumbled within weeks of losing their dream jobs. Turns out their connection was more about shared ambition than genuine affection. When the success disappeared, so did their feelings for each other. Everly tried reaching out multiple times through intermediaries, hoping to explain or apologize. I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. The real transformation, though, was personal. At a tech conference in Denver, I met Dr. Aria Croft, a brilliant cybersecurity expert who was building her own company from the ground up. She knew exactly who I was from day one, but what impressed her wasn't my bank account. It was my genuine passion for innovation and my respect for people who earn success through merit. Most trust fund kids I've met think money solves everything, she told me over dinner after our 3rd date. You actually understand that wealth is a tool, not a destination. 6 months later, I proposed to Aria, on the roof of Sterling Technologies headquarters, not because she needed my money or status, but because she challenged me to be better while loving me exactly as I was. As for Everly, I saw her one last time at an industry networking event. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her choices. When our eyes met across the room, I felt nothing but pity. She approached me during a quiet moment, her voice barely audible. Jayce, I just want you to know that I realize now how wrong I was. About everything. I hope you find happiness, Everly. I really do. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had just believed in you? I looked at this woman who had once meant everything to me, who had made me question my worth, who had thrown away something real for something that seemed shinier. No, I said gently. I don't wonder about that at all. Because the truth was, her betrayal had been a gift. It forced me to stop hiding from my potential and embrace who I was meant to become. It taught me the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you can provide. Most importantly, it led me to Aria, who saw my worth before she knew my net worth. Sometimes the people who underestimate you do you the greatest favor of all. They show you exactly what you're capable of when you stop trying to prove yourself to the wrong people. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.